Welcome everyone. Today we'll be looking at the in-game stats for artifacts. The correct combination of the min stat and sap stats of the artifacts in conjunction with the set effect can make a massive difference to a character. This can make the 50%, 100% or even 200% difference between the same characters. Now before we're going deeper into the in-game stats of artifacts, I strongly recommend you guys checking out my first artifact guide in which I talk about the set effects, the main and secondary stats of artifacts and how do they work. So definitely check out that guide video if you guys have time. It will be in the description below. In this video, we'll focus on the best stats for artifacts. This includes the min stats and the sub stats. We'll look into the best set effects for each of the artifacts in the next video. In the artifact tab, we can see that there are 5 categories of artifacts, starting with the flower, followed by that they are the feathers, after that those are the timepiece, and next up we have the globes, and lastly we have the helmet or the headgears. All of the artifacts we'll come across will be categorized in those 5 particular types of artifacts. Each of the artifacts has 3 major stats we really want to look at. The first is the min stat. This is the stat above the star sign. You can see on top here, my min stat for the flower artifact is HP, and this is a flat HP. It's not a percentage. Followed by that, the substats are below the star sign. Those are attack percent, elemental mastery, defense. After quite a bit of researching and double check my own stats of artifacts, what I found is the flower artifact and the feather artifact will always go into the flat HP and flat attack. Let's have a look at that over here in the game. So over here you can see the flower will always have HP as the main stat. This doesn't change no matter what the set of artifacts are. No matter how many you get, you only get HP. Similarly, for the feathers, you can only get flat attack. This is nice because you don't have to worry about the main stats. For those two, we can focus on sap stats. Opposite of the first 2 artifacts, the timepiece, the goblet, and also the headgear have a number of artifact main stats. This can start from attack, defense, and HP percent for all of them, and then they have their own individual unique ones. For the timepiece, you can roll into elemental mastery and energy recharge. For the goblet, you can roll into elemental or physical damage bonus, percentage. And lastly, for the headgear, which is the most fascinating one, you can roll into elemental mastery, critical rate, or critical damage percentage, and also healing percentage. So the headgear is by far the most complex one, because there's so many possibilities of getting a min stat. Let's have a look at the example of the min stat of the artifact with the headgear. So over here we have a headgear with attack of 13%. The next one will have a defense percentage of 7.9, and on the next one we'll have a healing percentage of 4%. So those are the min stat of the artifact. It's essential for us to have the correct min stats while having the correct set as well. Knowing the available pool of min stats for the artifacts, we can look for a particular artifact min stat. For example, if I'm building a attack DPS character, I'll be looking for attack percentage on my timepiece, goblet, and headgear. I might look for the critical chance or critical damage on the headgear as well if I find those. But the major factor is I will try to not look for things that doesn't exist. Next up, we have the substats. This is the most complex part about artifacts. So what happens with substats is that depending on the starting grade of the artifact, you'll be randomly giving a few of the random substats. And after that, for each of the 4 levels you level up the artifact, you'll be getting more of the substats. And this can be kept eventually at the maximum level of the artifacts, which depending on the rarity of artifact, this can be level 16 for the purple ones and level 20 for the legendary ones. The substat of any artifact can be anything except the min stat of artifact. For example, if my flower has flat HP, the substat of the flower cannot go into flat HP. It can be attack percent, defense percent, HP percent. It can go into flat attack, flat defense, elemental mastery, critical rate, or critical damage. It cannot go into healing bonus because most characters doesn't use this stat, so they took that away. It also cannot go into its main stat. Let's have a look at an example of this. Here we have a level 8 flower. You can see the HP is quite high as we level the flower further, and you can see there are 4 substats. When we first acquire an artifact, it can start with a few of the random substats to start with. Maybe here we have defense at defense percentage, over here we have attack and HP percent. So what's going to happen is when you level this to level 4, you get 1 more random substat. This can be a new substat or you can upgrade the existing one. You cannot have more than 4 different substats. So the moment you have all 4 of those, you cannot have any new ones. And you know After that, every 4 levels of upgrading, from level 8 to level 12 later, I will be randomly upgrading one of those stats. I might get another plus 14 attack, I might get about 8.2% defense after I get this to 12. This is random. Now that we explained the main stats and the sub stats of artifacts, let's have a look at the example of a good artifact. For this particular 4-star feather, I have a main stat of flat attack. This does not change. So for me, the focus is looking for a better percentage on my sub stats. I found critical rate, attack percent, and critical damage. Those 3 are by far the best attacking stats for me. And lastly, I also have HP flat, which is not a great one. I will be looking for HP percentage or maybe defense percentage. And what's going to happen is, the moment I found all 4 of my stats, I was happy enough to upgrade this piece even further, because I know there is only 1 in 4 chance of me getting unlucky with HP percent. I will always get lucky with the other 3 if I level this up. And this is why this is the only artifact I went to level 12 with. Knowing how expensive it is to upgrade an artifact beyond level 8, we must make sure we have a really high chance of getting a good substats. And this is knowing the fact we have a good main stat. While we're talking about the main stat for the artifact, let's look into another example. Over here, this pocket watch is only level 8. This is because I like the main stats, but I don't like the substats. I know that leveling this up further, I'll get high attack percentage, but the substats are not good. So the best thing I can render into is probably HP percentage, but I don't really need that. So in the end, I decided to leave this artifact on level 8, and I won't go further with this one. Now that we understand how the artifact works with main stat and substats, let's look into how to get a perfect stat artifact. Starting with the flower and the feather, we know that the main stat will not change. It will stay on the HP and stay on the attack. We'll be looking for 4 of the best substats. And what we can look for is we can look for attack percentage, we can look for the flat attack if you want more damage, we can look for critical rate and critical damage. This will be the best attack stats for the DPS character. Followed by that, what if I'm going for a mage? I can look for defense percentage, HP percentage, then I can look for healing bonus. After that, I might look for flat defense, just so I get super tanky with my healers. By far, the flowers and feathers are the easiest to find with the best substats, because they don't have a requirement for the main stats. As long as we have the correct set, we just need to make sure at least 3 of the 4 substats we find are good enough to use. Next up, we have the timepiece, the goblet, and also the headgear. Now, on top of finding some good substats, we also need to find a good percentage main stat. For example, for the timepiece, if I'm going for the attack character, I might look for the attack percent, I might look for energy recharge if I'm here to cast spells. After that, for my goblet, if I'm an attacker, I'll go by attack percent. If I'm a caster, I'll go with elemental damage bonus on the associative element. If my character is pyro, I'll go for pyro damage increase. And lastly, for the headgear piece, I can go for the attack percentage, but it's always better to go with critical rate or critical hit damage with the headgear in the late game. It is very important for us to emphasize that percentage is always better in the late game. Why is that? If I'm looking for a character with 1000 attack, getting another 15 or 30 attack doesn't mean much. But getting another 5% attack means I'm getting another 50% bonus attack damage. The elemental mastery stats within the game is actually a percentage calculation. To have a look at this, we need to go into the character details. Over here, we can find the character details below the stats. So once you go into the character details, you can see that elemental mastery is actually a percentage increase. And this will increase the proportional elemental combination of skills you can do with all sorts of elements. And knowing that this is a percentage gain, we don't have to worry about elemental mastery being a flat stat. So those numbers actually are percentage. Lastly, and the most important part for the perfect stats of artifact is that knowing critical rate and critical damage is much better than attack percentage. Why is that? Because critical rate and critical damage is a multiplier. They will actually increase your damage output massively compared to the addictive powers of attack percentage. So 20% attack is less than 20% critical rate at the 75% critical damage level. So what's going to happen is 20% attack likely increase your overall damage by 5%, compared to the 20% critical rate, which will increase our overall attack damage by 15%. The comparison of the multiplier over the addictive bonus is always the case for a lot of the RPG games, and Genshin Impact also uses this. Next up, we'll look at some of my suggestions and approaches towards the 4-star and 5-star artifacts. For example, this Berserker's Mask over here, I have attack percentage, HP percentage, and also defense percentage. This is also the correct set piece for my Berserkers. What I can do in the future is, I'm happy to get this piece up to level 8, but to go to level 12, I need some better substats. As we mentioned earlier, for the flower and the feather, because their main stats are fixed, we just have to focus on the substats, and if the substats are good enough, I'm happy to take them to level 12. We'll come back to the example we have over here as my only level 12 artifact. Over here, the attack stats are fixed, and my substats are good enough. I have 3 substats we're looking for, and I took this one to level 12. Unfortunately, upon getting to level 12, I didn't get any of the correct substats. I actually got HP from 150 to 406, which is very annoying, but it's something with RNG. Knowing that it's going to cost over 500,000 Mora to get a piece from level 8 to level 12, I definitely want to delay my timepiece, goblet, or headgears until I have the correct set bonus, the correct min stats, also the correct substats. And because of that, most of my other 3 pieces are still level 8. So over here, I have an example to show you guys how do I try to strategize into trying to get some good substats for this particular piece of gear. You can see currently this flower is level 4. Let me get this flower to level 7, and before we go to level 8, we'll have a look what's going to happen with the substats. I'm okay with the attack percent, defense percent, and elemental mastery. I'm really looking for percentage of critical chance or critical rate. So I have gotten this artifact to level 7 now, and you can see over here we're getting 1 more new bonus for the artifact upon getting level 8. I'm really hoping for some good attack stats. So let's have a look. We're going to do this live. Let's see what we get. We got energy recharge. Not bad actually, because my Venti is running energy recharge build, and getting another 4.7% energy recharge means I can cast his ulti more frequently. So what I was really looking for is attack percent, critical chances, critical damage, and perhaps energy recharge is not bad. I can also look for HP percentage. Now that we're level 8 and plus, what I can consider is maybe I can take this particular artifact to level 12 in the future. To summarize, it is very important for us to understand the 5 types of artifacts and the possible main stats they can roll into, and the possible substats they can go into. After that, having the knowledge of what are the perfect substats for your character is very important. Healers, DPS, and spellcasters want different stats. The casters want energy gain or maybe elemental damage. The healers want a bit of the healing increase, while the attackers want attack critical chance, attack damage, and also attack percentage. I wouldn't recommend investing into too many level 12 artifacts right away, but as you go further in the game, as you grab more chests and more loot with artifacts, then you can consider getting your whole team into level 12 with artifacts. But that is only after eventually level 30 for me. I know there is a lot of RNG factors with artifacts, but keep in mind, this is the end game. This is where people grind for months or even years, so there's a lot of RNG factors. And if you know some of the popular RPG games like, Path of Exile, Diablo, people go min and max an item for days or even months just to get the perfect stats. So this is also the case for Genshin Impact. Nevertheless, because it is a PvE game, there is enough time for us to enjoy the game to our liking, so try to not rush things and take it easy. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe and also click the little bell for more videos like this to come. As always, I wish you guys best of luck in Genshin and also have a great time exploring this beautiful world. I'll see you guys next time. Take care everyone.